Hey Chris, how you doing today? How are you? How are you? Wherever you are, I don't know if you're in Miami, New York, or somewhere else out in the world. You're fresh of Crypto Week. We talked about it week before. You went through this whole week. We got a lot to unpack on your journey through Crypto Week. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey Grant, great to see you. And yeah, I'm feeling really fresh. I'm feeling really energized. Crypto Week has done a lot for me and the things that I really like to see. And I'm coming to you here from South Florida. So outside is hot, and right now in here, the heat is rising.
Hey, let me tell you something, Chris. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize what just happened within the U.S. Congress with the passing of these three acts that you talked about last week. You gave us the heads up. You said this is coming down the pike. This is some big stuff. And I want to preface everyone to understand when the internet really got going and what we call e-commerce, meaning actually putting your credit card on the internet and getting something shipped to you was a very risky business in the year, let's say 2000, because if your stuff didn't arrive, whatever you ordered, there's no recourse maybe to get it back. It wasn't really backed by anything. However, once the banks got involved, the FDIC, they said, hey, we're going to back up anything that's transacted. And that just opened up online banking. It opened up a lot. People became more comfortable, displaying their credit card information over the internet, which was like, oh, you just complete idiot, right? Now, see, this is happening now in cryptocurrency. People have the same fears, the same risks. It's like, I'm not sure. It's too much speculation out here. What happens if things go south? Who backs this up? Now, Chris is a big banking guy. He's that guy in the Monopoly board, with the big hat and the nice clothes. And that's what the bankers are. And the bankers are now getting involved in cryptocurrency. You told me before they've been on the sidelines. Now they're in the game. Tell us from your lens, what does this mean?
Well, first, Grant, you are bringing the thunder today because this is a topic. I mean, you go back to 2000, and that was monumental. That was mountain moving. Right now, we're mountain shifting. I mean, it's just incredible. So before we go further, I just want to give a little word of wisdom told to me by my grandfather when I was very young. Since we're going to be bringing bankers into this whole thing, he told me, never trust a skinny banker. Okay.
Noted.
And by the way, if anybody has been watching the financial results of the major banks as well as a lot of the smaller ones, they're all up. They're all making money. They're all eating. They're all getting fat. And that's a good thing. Okay?
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
it's a
good
great
thing.
thing. I think
Yeah,
it's a
because
great thing because now they're at the table of cryptocurrency where before they were kind of like just watching this go along, your Ethereum world, your XRP world, your Bitcoin world. You got the stable coin we talked about last week. Now it has an asset behind it where before it was like kind of, Wild Wild West, in my opinion. Tell us what the buzz is from Crypto Week.
well, the first thing to keep in mind, Grant, is that the banks have wanted to play a role, and by regulation, they have not been allowed to. Okay. And that's what last week really changed. And let me preface this by saying that there are three bills that went through. One is the Regulation Clarity Act, which puts some structure, very much needed. The other was the anti-CBDC, that's the Central Bank Digital Currency, Anti-Central Bank Digital Currency Act. And that is designed to prevent the US government from issuing their own CBD currency, mainly to protect the privacy of our citizens, right? Because they would really be able to see any and everything. So it's an important but small piece, I will say, out of the three monumental pieces of law that's been voted on last week. Now here's the cream of the crop now is the Genius Act, and this is the one that starts right off by saying the U.S. government is going to make sure, and now legally will make sure, that we will be at the front of innovation going forward in this whole crypto space. So very, very interesting. But let's also keep in mind, the Senate passed it. It's now in the House of Representatives, and that's to go through, although we're pretty much assured that it will. Now, I want to just start off with a couple of interesting things, because when we start talking about crypto, right, I want to give a little background, Grant. Would you like to know a little background? I've got a couple of facts.
I'm all ears from the background, because everybody's buzzing. I mean, it's like somebody just hit the go button for these banks, and they're going hard.
Okay, so let me give you a little information of what's considered the top 10 most crypto-friendly markets. Okay, and I'm not going to give you in any particular order. I'll just run down the list, and then we'll go over some of the things that it points out. Well, the U.S., United States of America, Singapore, Slovenia, the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, El Salvador, Cyprus, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Thailand, and Canada. The main thing that everyone has in common here is they're small countries with small economies, with the exception really of the US. Now, when we look at number of Bitcoin ATMs, in the US, there's over 30,000 Bitcoin ATMs. And why I bring that up, because, when you talk about digital currency in general, and you talk about the electronification of money, really the big turning point back in the late 70s, early 80s was the availability of ATMs. It's almost like, when we first started driving cars, the proliferation of gas stations really helped get America on the road, because before that, you were carrying your own gas, and that wasn't such an easy thing to do. So I just bring that up, that the U.S. is number one in the number of Bitcoin ATMs with over 30,000. And listen to this gap. Number two is our northern neighbor, Canada, and they have 3,500 Bitcoin ATMs. So there's quite a lead there in terms of just general accessibility. Okay, so now I want to get to something even a little bit more interesting, and when we talk about crypto ownership rate, right? This is the percentage of these. We'll look at these top 10 countries again. This is the percentage of people that own crypto in these countries. The U.S. right now, out of our 350 million plus people, 15% own some crypto somewhere, somehow.
Yep.
And that surprised me, because I would have put it lower. I would have put it, 8 or 9%, just based on what I hear and see. The number one place of crypto ownership is the United Arab Emirates, which is at 25%, closely followed by Singapore at 24%. Even our northern neighbor, Canada, is at 10%. So it's really kind of interesting how that's grown, because in the U.S., it's actually grown, according to what I read, 220% in the last year in terms of crypto ownership.
This is everything you talked about, like the financial world is changing. The world that we knew, the banking world that we knew, how to do things. And if you've really been thinking about it over the last 10 years, it's been changing. I just remember doing, when you did a wire transfer or something like that, and you went down to your local store and you had to do a wire. Now you can do it so easily with so many different options, whether it's like a Cash App or a Zelle or a Stripe, or everybody does these things now. It's like it's no big deal, and you explained even in one of our other shows how these payments, how they get paid in the back end, how all this is a win-win for everybody. Now with this new Genius Act and this Clarity Act that's reshaping, I think, the legal responsibilities of stable coin issuers, what is going to be the impact of that, especially, and this is where I'm really I would say where I want to ask this question about, because crypto has been around for a while. Everybody looked at it as a decentralized financing world, DeFi, like, the alternative banking system. Now the banks getting in, it's not that anymore. So talk to us first about a little bit more about the Clarity Act, Genius Act, and then how this really going to reshape that whole decentralized or DeFi world in the crypto ecosystem.
Well, Grant, first, there is some difference between what is considered DeFi, decentralized finance, and crypto. So decentralized finance is the ability to use crypto as a financial instrument, right? And that means lending, so people can borrow either against their crypto or borrow crypto, these kind of things. Crypto itself, of course, can be used for those things. It can be used as a store of value, similar to gold. It can be used as a form of payment, and that's been going on for more than a decade. And so it has some other ways of being able to be usable other than just as a DeFi tool, right? DeFi is one of the things that it'll do. So when we talk about the Clarity Act, what's so important there is the regulatory framework. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been saying, going all the way back since 2013, when crypto got a hold of me back then, I've been saying for all that time that when there's regulation in place in the U.S. market, because we've seen it already in some other countries, when regulation is in place in the U.S. market, then the usability of crypto, the viability of crypto, the trustability of crypto, the security of crypto, and the backing of both the U.S. regulatory system as well as the legal system, that then this is the game changer. This is where the mountaintop becomes reachable, and the banks have been on the sidelines. Now they have a structure. There is a framework where they can actually go ahead and start looking at things. And I think that we'll see, and again, right now we've just gone through passing of some of these bills. Nothing is totally signed off yet that can be acted on. That will happen soon, but there'll come a time when you'll be able to go to your Wells Fargo account or your Citibank account or your First National account and be able to buy and sell crypto right from your bank account as another account. You have your savings account, you have your checking account, you might have your retirement, you might have your mutual funds. It'll just be another account just like that, and it will become pretty seamless. And I think that people will just, like any other new form of payment, will just gravitate to it and be able to take advantage in their individual financial positions on what they think will be best for them.
This, you make it sound so simple and easy. This is a major change. When I think about just money, right? I grew up in a world where money we call fiat currency. Somebody puts a guy that was, lived 200 years ago, they put it on a dollar bill and it's worth something. And it's an agreed upon value in exchange of goods and services, based on the economic power of that nation, let's just say. And people believe in that. Before that, it was gold, so you had certain standards. They say the gold standard, where people will agree upon that is the value. Crypto is a digital currency, meaning it's a non-physical asset that is now being backed by what some would say is another non-physical asset or fiat currency, but then it's backed by oil, gold, other things as a recognized form of commerce and of value. And I think you brought something up before when said, well, people are like, well, what's the difference? I think it's in the utility. the use of it now, right? Especially when you're going to different countries, you're doing certain things. You so eloquently explained this last week, and I want to bring this to the forefront a bit. Let's just say I'm in another country and I'm in Jamaica, and then I buy crypto at a certain with Jamaican money, and it's worth, let's just say, one Bitcoin, right? Well, that one Bitcoin, no matter what happens with the Jamaican currency, a week, 2 weeks later, is still valued at one Bitcoin. I want you to help the people understand what that really means in the banking world, and how this is going to be a major change in how we see finance going forward.
Well, Grant, you outlined that really nicely, and to take your example and just go one step further. And first, I want to say is that both of us grew up at a time when the big thing you always heard was cash is king, right?
Yeah.
Cash is king. Not anymore. I can tell you for myself personally, I stopped carrying cash a long time ago because, when I come in the house, the kids and then the grandkids could smell that cash, and it's gone just like this. So I went to cards on everything, and next thing you know, they're using the cards everywhere. So now I try to pay just by my phone. It's a challenge, and I've always said that the bank of dad is a losing bank. Money goes out, never comes back.
A lot of skinny dads out there, right?
That's right, exactly. But the way you just positioned it, I'm going to take that same example and I'm going to insert stable coin, right?
Okay.
So you're in Jamaica, you've got 100 Jamaican dollars, and you want to send it to your daughter who's in college in London, right? It's a very typical kind of scenario, and today you've got to go through quite a bit to be able to do that through the banking system. And there's a lot of reasons why, a lot of not really good reasons in my view. But so you take your $100 in Jamaica and you go to a crypto exchange, you buy Bitcoin, which is the number one most used, biggest market cap, most widely viewed cryptocurrency. And then you get that $100 worth of Bitcoin, and then you can send it to her crypto wallet, and she will receive $100 worth of Bitcoin, and then can cash it out on the exchange or can have a debit card attached to it. There's a lot of ways you can do that now. So in the scenario of stable coins, and the two biggest stable coins that we have right now, both are tied to the US dollar directly. So one of them is called Tether, USDT, and one Tether equals $1. And the other one is USDC, and this is from the exchange, the company Circle, who had a huge splash of a public offering, was oversold, and prices of those issues shot right up like overnight. It was quite dramatic. And they're both tied to the US dollar 1-to-1. Now, what that means for both Tether and Circle is that they have to have the funds to back those up, right? They're secured by, the US dollar, and it's real security. And actually both of them today have more assets than they do have stable coins out on the market. Okay. So that's a little of that. So I will now I could go to my bank account, tell my bank I want to send $100 to my daughter. The bank will take my $100, buy a stable coin, right? Say Tether, USDT, buy that stable coin. So first thing that does is it locks in the price. So the Jamaican dollar can fluctuate to your advantage or to your disadvantage against the US dollar. But once you turn it into a stable coin, it's locked 1-to-1. The value doesn't change. Even if the Jamaican dollar was to be devalued by 20%, doesn't matter, because you now have a 1-to-1 ratio to the US dollar. And then the bank can send to your daughter's bank account, and it will show up there for her to use, right? The other big advantage is that this can literally happen in 10 minutes, in 5 minutes. We're going to see in the future that this is almost instantaneously that this will happen. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is for I believe for everyone, there's really not a lot of changes in what we do today, right? We're calling these things different things because they are, and they're fundamentally financial tools, right?
Mhm.
But today, for instance, and if we go back even decades, when you go to the ATM, you're looking at really digital numbers. Your account shows this. It doesn't necessarily mean you can grab that money anytime you want, right? In fact, the banks have made it so you can't actually. So if you go to the ATM, there you're cashing in this number, this value on a spreadsheet, let's say, into US dollars, and that's what's coming out of the ATM then at that point, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Now, also, just not to get off a little bit, but one of the things that people have to understand with ATMs, right, is for the most part, there's always some kind of daily limit, anywhere from a 500 maybe to 3,000. I don't know if too many that go further than that, regardless of what you have in your account.
Mhm.
In other words, you could have $10,000 in your account, and the bank has capped your ATM withdrawal at 1,000, and you can't get any more than that, even though it's your money. And of course, if you complain to the bank will always say to you, sir, madam, this is for your protection.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not. There's two reasons. One is a risk reason. One is, you see, if somebody is able to get into your account through the bank's ATM and takes out $5,000, the bank is responsible for that and has
Yeah.
to reimburse you. Okay. So they limit their risk by capping you at $1,000. So the most that they can be at risk for is $1,000. And then there is actually a practical reason, Grant. Imagine, you're at an ATM in a busy place, right? And I go there and I take out, $20,000. Well, it's very likely within the next hour that machine's going to run out of money before they can get there and replenish it. Okay.
Yep.
So you could say maybe there's some fairness there, but really the primary reason is the bank is protecting themselves. It's never about protecting us.
I wonder why. Let's talk about protection, because this has got to be on our minds. So now you've got this Genius Act. Now you've got stablecoin. You just gave us a good, understanding of how these things can be done instantaneous, and the value is secured. And I think that helps to uphold a lot of markets that traditionally have been underserved, like in the Caribbean. Like we always talk about the U.S. Virgin Islands and St. Croix, because it has a U.S. banking system now as a hub doing business in the archipelago. That's great. There's always been what I call the elephant in the room when it comes to crypto, and that is theft. Crypto theft has been pretty high. I think it was like $2 billion stole just in 2025 and just in the US. The question is, will stablecoin regulators, will they enforce compliance? Will they have a standard type of audit? There's certain standards with platforms and wallets. And what role will these federal agencies or third-party, audit bodies, play in verifying the reserves and the technical infrastructure that you need for stablecoin issuers under the Genius Act? I mean, is this something that you heard during Crypto Week as well? I mean, what is the posture of cybersecurity and security in general?
Well, security is always an issue. It's been an issue. It will continue to be an issue. But let me point out just a couple of quick things.
Yeah.
Is the amount of money that people lose from scams and mismanagement and things in their regular bank accounts today far exceeds what's been lost in crypto. I mean, we're talking, 20, 30, 50 times the amount. It's quite incredible if you start looking at the numbers, okay? So the issue is there regardless of whether it's crypto or not. Crypto, in the other side, has two reasons why it's more secure. One is the blockchain, which is what crypto is based on, has never been hacked. Blockchain, they at this point, we haven't come across any technology that's able to hack. Where people lose money in crypto, other than scams, right? Where somebody talks them out of it, like somebody talks them out of your money from your bank account, right? They lose it when somebody can hack into their wallet, which is not on the blockchain.
Okay.
And when it comes to wallets, there's two common types that you hear all the time about. One is a hot wallet, the other is a cold wallet. Okay, a hot wallet means it's a wallet on the internet and means it's one very easy for you to use. It's online all the time. This is the one that gets hacked. The other one is a cold wallet, and that's where you store your crypto actually in cold storage. Like you could store your crypto on a USB drive and take it and put it in your pocket. I mean, you could literally have a couple of $1 million worth of crypto if you were so lucky, and you could keep that in your pocket and nobody would have any access to it. It's not on the internet. It's not online. There's no access to it unless they reach in your pocket, grab it, and then they would have to know your key to even be able to use it. So the point of weakness is the wallets, and it's the hot wallets online. And the majority of people have their wallets that way because of usability.
We've got to get used to that term, the digital wallet. Now, people are used to having a digital online bank account. It's pretty easy. You log in, you go through some verification, usually, and some security. You get in, you can see the numbers. It's not that difficult. These digital wallets, I remember even in getting one right now, you have to remember that code. And if you don't remember their code, you can't get access to that money. And we're starting to hear stories around this. Somebody said, I think somebody has like over $1 billion in crypto or something. And the wallet key has been missing for years, and no one knows how to unlock the value. I was wondering, think about it. Let's just say, for instance, God forbid, I passed away and no one knew the wallet code. What's going to happen? The value, does it go to the state? I mean, has that been discussed in your worlds? I'm just not sure. Chris, I know Chris is still out there.
Yeah. Grant, what I was going to say is that with those stories of those stories, those wallets happened years ago before people really had a good understanding of how to manage them and how to keep them. And at that time, for instance, if you had 1,000 Bitcoin back in 2013, when I first got very interested in it, 1,000 Bitcoin would only be worth, maybe $20,000.
Yeah.
Of course, 1,000 Bitcoin today, is worth probably $110 million. It's quite a difference, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, and it reminds me of a big financial software company I was an executive for years ago, and they ran the software for ATMs. It was one of their number of products, but they were the first creators of ATM driving software. So every bank, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, whoever you want to mention, was their customer, right? And when I went to the campus, which, by the way, is right in your neck of the woods out in Omaha.
Yeah.
When I went to the campus there, because of the level of security they had, you had to have 3 passwords for everything, and every 30 days, one of them had to change. So when you go in, and it was a 4-story building, actually in the middle of a cornfield, a 4-story building, and when you go in there, I mean, there's just rows and rows of desks with computer terminals. On almost every computer terminal was a sticky note with the 3 passwords, because they changed so often, people couldn't remember them.
Yeah.
And they physically wrote them down. So it makes you wonder how secure it So some of our security sometimes goes beyond the fact of what people are generally willing to do or not willing to do.
Or can do, capable of doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly, the key literally the key that you need for your crypto wallets is something that you need to physically have stored somewhere. And then there's also, they use a list of random words, typically 15 random words that, you know, again, you have to securely put that someplace so that you could always access it just in case. Okay. So that's how security kind of works on these things. But like I said, it's not dissimilar to what we do today just with our regular bank accounts. And what I'll suggest, Grant, is that over the next year, again, you're going to see the banks being able to offer crypto accounts to the holders, and you will be able to use them and access them just like any of your checking account today or your savings account today. You're really not going to see any kind of difference that, oh, this is crypto and this is not, you know, I have money here, I have money in investment here, I have money in my savings account here. Which account do I want to use?
Yeah.
And that'll be the structure that I'm suggesting that we're going to see in the near future.
Let me ask you this. This is my other big elephant in the room because you brought it up, I think, in our very first episode. And that is this. Is it a currency or is it a commodity? Because certain laws and regulations depends on the mood of the day or whatever it is that they're looking at. Is it it can't really be both. You know, it's a currency or it's a commodity. You use currency to buy commodities. You can take commodities and kind of turn it into currency, but I don't think they're the same thing. Is it more defined? Maybe the Clarity Act has something to do with that. What does Chris say about that?
Well, I will say one thing. There's one word that's the difference between currency and commodity, and that's liquidity. Right? Currency is liquid, right? A commodity, you have to find a buyer to sell it so you can get liquid, right? To me, that's to me the distinctive difference. There are a lot of other differences, but that's to me the biggest distinction. But if we go back and let's go. And that's really a key point. You know, 6 out of the top 10 countries I mentioned before don't have any income tax on cryptocurrency, right? Unfortunately, in the US at this moment, we have the best of both worlds for the government, the worst of both worlds for us, the citizens. And what I mean by that is cryptocurrency a commodity? Well, if you ask the IRS, yes, it is. And we're going to tax you capital gains tax like any other commodity, as if you own shares of IBM, for instance. So whatever you paid for it, any profit you make above that, it's about 30% goes to the IRS in capital gains tax, right? Now, if you're doing something illegal with cryptocurrency, money laundering, funding terrorists, and all these things, of course, you get arrested, and you should, okay? And you should be persecuted to the fullest of the law, no doubt, you know. But our legal system, the judicial system, says that cryptocurrency acts like money. Okay. So in other words, if I use the US dollar to money launder, I get arrested, and if proven guilty, I go to jail. If I use British pounds to laundry money, I get arrested. If I'm proven guilty, I go to jail. Same with crypto. If I use Bitcoin to money launder, I do, right? The difference is if I own British pounds and British pounds go up in value, there's no tax. It's not a commodity, it's a currency. Okay? Amazingly, according to our US government, Bitcoin is both. Currency, if you do something wrong, you go to jail. And it's a commodity. And if you make money, you pay taxes.
Wow.
We don't have the clarity yet on that. And
so the Clarity Act doesn't clear that up at all.
No. And I would suggest my own humble little opinion is that it's kind of a hard thing for the IRS to want to let go, but that's what has to happen because clearly it works just like money does. It's valued like money. It's has the usability that money has, much more than if it's a cryptocurrency that's considered a commodity. Now, I'll also suggest that we may find that they will regulate cryptocurrencies and say, okay, this cryptocurrency is going to be considered a commodity and taxable. This cryptocurrency is going to be considered a currency and we'll treat it the same as British pounds or euros, right? And that comes back to the subject of the day. Stable coins are being structured so that they will behave and act as currency with no distinction as commodity. We're not going to see those taxed. That's one of the things that will happen. And why I say that we'll see some segregation in the crypto side is to me, there's one word that makes the difference between a crypto that is a commodity and one that is not. And the word is usability.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can actually use that cryptocurrency for a particular activity, then it shouldn't be taxed. If that cryptocurrency is something that you're buying and you're hoping it will go up 100x, or like the kids say, where's my Lambo, right? That's just like buying a stock of IBM and hoping that the price goes up and the dividend increases, right? It's a commodity and it should be taxed as such. So I think that that's where we're going to see the distinctions. And to me, the key word is usability.
Big time. Now let's talk about that. Utility, usability. Do you foresee a time that, as you said, like we've got 30,000 Bitcoin type ATMs in the United States? Does that mean I go up to the ATM and say, oh, I've got 1,000 Bitcoin here and I want 500? Is it going to come out in a form of some kind of paper or an actual gigantic coin?
Whoa, that would be nice. So, Grant, the way that the crypto ATMs work today is you go in and you're able to access your account, right? So you can access your account and you can say, okay, I want to sell $100 worth of Bitcoin, and the ATM will give me the net proceeds because there's some fees involved, right?
Sure.
So the ATM would spit out to me saying $96, okay? Or I can go.
What you just said, so it's a conversion of the Bitcoin to US dollars that comes out of the machine.
Yes. And the reverse is true. I can walk up to a Bitcoin ATM, again, put my account in, right? And feed in $100 and say, I want that $100 US converted to $100 worth of Bitcoin, and I want that in my crypto wallet.
Yeah. And then you can move that crypto and usually now people do that. Getting back to usability, maybe you do that because let's say now I'm going to be going to another country. I'm going to be in Guyana. I want to be able to utilize Bitcoin instead of US dollars. So I don't have to go through this exchange rate over time. Is that some of the usability and utility of Bitcoin?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to see usability for any of those cryptos that are used for that purpose, right? So it's very interesting. The number one cryptocurrency, both by popularity and by market cap, is Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Number two is Ethereum, okay? And Ethereum is a different kind of crypto platform in that it has much more usability and functionality where you can actually build things on it. And one of the key distinctions is the ability to write smart contracts. So these are contracts, and we'll at some time we'll go deeper into them, that you can write. For instance, you can say that I can write a smart contract that says, okay, from my account, every month I want to send Grant $100, and it would automatically do it.
Yeah.
A very simple application, for instance. But here's the key thing with Ethereum is more than 50% of all the stablecoin applications are right now built on Ethereum, and that number will increase, which is why over just the last couple of weeks, we've seen Ethereum have better percentage growth than we've seen with Bitcoin at this time.
Now let me ask you this. We got only a couple of minutes here, but so you talked about Bitcoin, you talked about Ethereum. There's two others, though. Just real quick, there is XRP and Solana. How are they different?
Well, XRP is very interesting. And, of course, they were involved in a battle with the U.S. government, with the SEC for better part of 5 years, I guess. And that was over the SEC saying that this is truly a commodity, and that Ripple Labs, which is the owner of XRP, that Ripple Labs was selling a security without it being registered and without it being under and meeting the regulations of requirements for investors, right? The heart of the case, really. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about a lot of other things. Ripple, was great at muddying the waters into their benefit, and their lawyers should do that, right? Yeah. But the key part is that they were a single owner entity who benefited from the sale of a financial instrument that's considered by the SEC to be a security. Okay. Now, it's very interesting because in 2015, I actually interviewed for Financial IT Chris Larsen. Chris Larsen is a gentleman who originally started Ripple. He was the CEO for years and years, and he's now chairman of the board and, not in a lot of activity. And so long story to get to your point is they made a shift. They were really a failed cryptocurrency originally. They made a shift in 2015 to offer the banks a way of moving money from bank to bank using the XRP token along the Ripple Labs tracks, let's say, the railings, the piping that they had put in place. And right now, today, the way money moves in the world is through SWIFT.
Yes.
And right. And SWIFT messages are the way money moves throughout the world, right? You'll send a message, and what they call an MT 103, which is from me to your bank to pay so and so, and you could send a 202, which is a collection notice, and they have numbers that go like this. And this is the backbone of the financial industry since the early 70s, right? So Ripple stepped in and said that SWIFT is over. We're the new thing, okay? And it was quite bold statements at the time, and from a marketing standpoint, it worked out to be amazing because look, XRP is one of the top 5 cryptocurrencies. It's got a huge market cap. Everyone involved in Ripple has done very well, right? But the movement of banks to actually using it, a lot of banks got on board because of the marketing benefits. Oh, yeah. We're a bank ahead of everyone else. This kind of marketing thing, right? But actually using it has been a very slow, very small process. And, there's a lot of reasons. One, the structure of SWIFT, banks don't want to change. But what people don't realize is the owners of SWIFT are all the bank members.
So it's a consortium.
It's a consortium. So if they started moving everything to XRP, their ownership piece in SWIFT would devalue, basically, right?
So that's they're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face. Hey, we're at time right now. This is, again, we got so much to talk about. If everybody loved this show, they got to come back next week. So we're going to unpack. There's just so much. But this is where you can come, you can learn. Chris does such a great job of demystifying a lot of these different things so that you can understand them. I want to thank everybody again for joining us on The Big Picture. I'll see you again next week, Chris.
Thanks, Grant.
Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. Third Border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton, an American founding father, first U.S. Treasury Secretary, and architect of the U.S. financial system and modern America. Third Wall Street is located in a U.S. National Heritage Area, Opportunity Zone, and the boyhood home of Alexander Hamilton in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, connecting 3 financial hubs in the Americas by way of new innovative financial technology and markets: New York Wall Street South, Brickell Avenue, Miami, and Third Wall Street in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and established the new Caribbean America's Single Economy Zone, developed by SETI Case Capital Markets. Third Wall Street will transform financial markets, improving access to capital worldwide. Visit www.thirdwallstreet.com to learn more.